And we are back. Welcome to Conf TV. After finance, I think it's quite a natural progression to talk about security a little bit. I'm talking today with Andreas Schneider, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer of TX Group this afternoon. Andreas, how do you feel about security today?
I have mixed feelings. So if you look, if you would zoom out and would say globally, it's really bad. So there's from the WEF, there's that yearly global risk report, and that state that has cybersecurity risks in there for years, in the top risks for all nations, for all countries. If you then go to Europe, or more specifically to Switzerland, I would say it's worse because there's still a feeling no one would ever do something to us and harm us. And why should someone do something? Why should someone steal from us? Because everyone is rich, feels a little bit like that. If you then zoom to TX Group, I would say we do a really good job. We are doing advanced security, advanced in Switzerland. If you compare it to other companies here in Switzerland, for me it's not enough, but I can sleep well. So if I look at that, I have mixed feelings because things get worse, but I would say we are well prepared.
Let's talk a little bit about how things are getting worse, because what you were hitting on just there as well is that there is a certain abstraction when it comes to security. Yeah. And it might not be that tangible for people to understand what that actually means. So 2021 was actually a crazy year when it comes to security. The threats have changed and they are constantly growing. What are you actually seeing, how these threats are changing, and specifically for TX Group as well?
So one thing is COVID. So everyone who has, for example, never touched digital tools now is using digital tools. So every citizen in the world is at home or was at home, and even my mother is using Zoom or other tools to really get in touch with other people, buy things online. So I think we bring technology to more people, but these people are not educated in security views. So this is the one thing. The other thing is, if I look at TX Group, we covered that well, but still I see there is a change that the threat actors, so the attackers, are using nation-state methods to hack companies, even in Switzerland, especially in Switzerland, and then really do advanced hacking to get in, steal data, and then ask for a ransom. This happened a lot now in Switzerland. And this is something that has changed. So these criminal organizations did not do that in the past. Now it's getting more and more advanced. And you, on the other side, you have to be prepared and be more and more advanced. So just having second factor authentication for your account, just as an example, that's not enough. And I would say 80% of the Swiss companies don't have that. We have that now for years, but it's still not enough. So you see, you're fighting against someone out there who is using advanced nation-state techniques, and we are in there in that battle and try to bring in technology from a defense perspective that are not always expensive, but we have people that need to use them, and education is the key to that.
So let's go into this. You have been using terms like fight and defense. It has a bit of a war-y kind of language behind that. How do we bring that closer to everyday people? How do we bring a security mindset to people to actually use those?
Yeah. So I would say for people, it's always important, not just if you use security, it must be relevant. And security is not very tangible. So for many, they feel, why would someone do something with me? I have nothing. There's nothing what I could offer to them. And they don't understand that the single email account is just worth $1. For an attacker, there are attackers that are just collecting email addresses with passwords. So they are collecting that and selling that on the dark web for $1. The Netflix account is around $12. If you go to a banking account, it's, I think, around $200. If you go to a passport, everything has a value. So attackers try to steal that and sell that for others who then do advanced attacks. So every single one of us is a target. Every email account, every photo of us is a target. And people just don't feel that they might be targeted. And as soon as you are connected, you can be found. Many feel that they are anonymously in the internet, it's not the case. As soon as you connect, you can be found. And it takes minutes, maybe an hour. Then there are scrapers that see, okay, there is a new device, and people really try to get in then.
Let's talk a little bit about this, because one of the elements that has really been growing in recent years is social engineering.
Yeah.
And this is not only a concern for us as private people, but it's also a concern for companies, especially like TX Group, who has a variety of subsidiaries who work in finance, as we've just heard before, and all in just general marketplaces. What do we need to understand as individuals about social engineering, and how can we protect ourselves against that threat?
So I think social engineering is something where you play with emotions as an attacker. So if I want to trick someone to click somewhere, I send him pictures or pretend that there are, for example, naked pictures in there from women, men, whatever. People will most likely click. There are good statistics, and they would never report it. So it's the best way to get into a company. Or if you send out emails, you get like 20% for Apple products. Naturally, you would see this would never happen. You don't get a discount for Apple products, but people have that feeling, oh, I have to buy that, I have to get that. It's like winter sales. People run into the supermarket or in the store. So attackers play with these emotions, and having a rational thought, can this be real? Is the CEO really now writing an email to me? He even doesn't know my name. So why should he write me an email that he needs my help? So this is a little bit, I wouldn't say offensive, but for many people, it's then the feeling, oh, the CEO wants something from me, and the brain is no longer working in the correct way. So they really want then to do their best, and then they give away information, they do transactions. So this is how social engineering works. It tricks our emotions as humans. That's the bad thing about it.
So this also changes a little bit how we should communicate, because I think email is very nice to sometimes hide as well from a conversation. You don't actually have to face the other human being. So the solution to the example that you just made is probably just a phone call away.
Yes, it's a phone call away, but there are technologies like Deepfake, where there is a case in the UK where a criminal organization faked the CEO's face and the voice.
So they went that far?
Yeah, they called people in the organization to do a financial transaction. And on the other side, they were sure, this is our CEO. So you see how far technology brings us in a positive way, but also on a defensive way. It gets more and more difficult to tackle these kind of attacks. I've seen in my past career companies that were setting up call centers in Switzerland, and they, for example, just changed the bank account. They send out letters, hey, we are from your subsidiary, and we changed our bank account to a bank account in Eastern countries. And if you have any questions, just call us. And there was a Swiss number. There was a call center answering to that.
It looked like shit.
So it looked like that. And if you would just change the bank account, nothing malicious happens. But if you do your yearly transaction for your fees, your stakes, then maybe 3 months later, the money is going outside your company to a bank account that it should not go there. So there are really good tricks and techniques where you have to think outside the box, but everything is playing with our emotions and how we deal. That's social engineering, and this is still far the most successful attack method.
Yeah, you cannot just put in a firewall to protect you from that.
Yeah, and you can have the best antivirus or the best technologies. We still have humans. Mm-hmm. So, and as we deal with humans, that's one of the approaches we try to take, is to not rethink security, but really get back to our people. So we have to educate them. Mm-hmm. We can't expect everyone being perfect. This is just not working. But if every single one in our company, or also outside our company, has a minimum understanding of security or a feeling that they are allowed to ask questions, then this already helps. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking about TX Group and the subsidiaries for a second, so there are heaps of them, and all of those companies have different needs in terms of security. How do you, as the CISO of TX Group, tackle that? What is your approach to these different needs?
So the one thing is, I believe that everyone has the knowledge already. So if I go to an engineering team, let's say at Ricardo, they still belong to us. So if I go there, I try to remove my hat of the CISO. I want to sit on the table with the engineers and speak with them in their language, so in their tech language, to understand where they are and feel where I have to bring them on a road. And most people, you should more just motivate going on a road. They will come up with the best solutions. So a developer in Ricardo knows much better how to write the right code rather than me. But I can help him understanding that he needs to write secure code. If we go to someone in a printing center, that's a different story. He doesn't write code, he's working with paper and machines. He must be convinced that putting in a USB stick in such a huge machine is a really terrible idea. There are other ways doing that. So you have to get into their thinking and try to help them finding a solution by themselves. I honestly know 90% of the solutions usually, but if I would say, go there, it does not work. It's like if you have kids, it also doesn't work. You can say, go to the left, go to bed, they won't go to bed. So there are other tricks, you could say, to bring them there. It's also some kind of social engineering in a positive way, I would say.
It's just turning it on its head, basically. Yeah. One thing that I would like to talk about a little bit is one of those notches that you've applied at TX Group to improve security in general. And it's the so-called bug bounty program.
Yeah.
And not everyone is in tech. If you would have to explain bug bounty program to someone who's not a developer, who's not an engineer, how would you explain that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so we have digital products. If you go for ricardo.ch or tagesanzeiger.ch, we want to make sure that these are secure. So we invite researchers across the globe, or hackers, to not hack us in a bad way, but to look for vulnerabilities. So if they find something, they earn money. So we pay out, with 20 minutes, we pay out up to $5,000 per vulnerability. But if a second one comes and finds exactly the same, we don't pay it out. It's a first come, first serve. So you have a huge competition. And if you go to the 20 minutes program, we have thousands of external researchers that continuously try to hack us. We have rules, what they may do or may not do. But if they follow the rules, they really may hack us. And if they find something, they get paid. Wow. But the better you become, the less you pay out. So right now, for I would say 1 month, we didn't pay out anything for the 20 minutes program, but we have thousands of people checking it all day. So that's fantastic.
So you're basically outsourcing your security to an extent without properly outsourcing it. You just basically go like, hey, attack me. And
yes, it's the best. My wife said, is this really a good idea? She asked me that. And I said, okay, look, if you have a house and say, hey, dear burglars and everyone outside, please break in.
Try it.
Yeah. Try me. You get money with it. You would think, this is ridiculous. But if you know that there are like 20 that tried it out and they can't go in, you can sleep much better.
It gives you a sense of security.
Yes, yeah. And it's a real security. Someone tested it, not the one who's selling you security solutions, but the one who really abuse security. Mm-hmm. The ones who really try to break in. So for me, it's also an understanding that I don't know everything, but there are thousands of people out there that maybe a couple of them know much more. And if we can make use of that knowledge, it really will help us improving security.
That is super fascinating. And I think this also goes back to something that we have mentioned on this channel this morning. It's the open source attitude that TX Group is also living. I think that speaks very much to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same mindset behind it. Yeah.
When you look back at the 3 years that you've been with TX Group, what do you think is the achievement that stands out? Is it this bounty program, or do you have other things in mind?
actually, the bug bounty program is a huge achievement, but for me, it goes beyond. So now if you run a bug bounty program and all these hackers find vulnerabilities, that's for me not the end of the road. Mm-hmm. The one thing I'm really proud of, we now introduced a new tool called Secure Code Warrior. And the idea for me is, okay, we now have also data. We have around 150 vulnerabilities we found. So can we make use of that? Well, yes, we know exactly where our developers have weaknesses. And if we can take that, bring that back to them, so back to the humans, and educate them how to avoid that from the beginning on, we pay out much less in our bug bounty programs, and they write better code. So this is bringing that back to the people. This is, for me, the far most success. Not having the new tool. For me, it's a personal success because in Switzerland, there are only few companies that are really doing that. Mm-hmm. So for all that did that, this is outstanding. But bringing it back to the people means that I'm not needed anymore in the future. So I'm a good CISO if I'm no longer needed in the future. And this is where we get close.
That's really cool, and thank you so much for speaking to us today. We are already getting to the end of our interview right now. You will be on stage very shortly with your keynote speech. Yeah. Can you give us a little teaser what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, I will talk about crowdsourcing and trees and how we solve security with that.
Amazing. All right. We are now wrapping up over here. We will have Benjamin talk to Sarah Safri about how has data science transformed marketing. So please stay tuned. We are just going through the transition now. Talk to you soon.